So in this video, we're going to look at one of the most intense passages in the entire Bible. Burning sulfur, smoke that never ends, eternal torment, no rest day or night. A lot of people have been taught to read this passage as a personal warning, a threat, something about eternal hell and what happens if you don't believe the right things. But what if we've actually misunderstood the meaning entirely? First, hi, my name's Corey, and this is RedeemerOnline.Church, where it's my mission to help you understand and practice the Christian faith, regardless of your church attendance. And if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button. On the channel, we've been going through the book of Revelation together because, well, when the world gets chaotic, Christians often run to this book looking for apocalyptic answers to their chaos-induced questions. And today, we're going to look at a portion of this Revelation book that is terrifying and especially misunderstood. But it's not designed to be that way. In fact, this book gave its original readers a lot of hope and encouragement and strength in the face of their challenges. So much so that it was passed around and passed down for almost 300 years before it was ever included in the Bible. And I think if we properly understood it, it could do the same kind of thing for us. So let's talk about three angels, what their strange but powerful messages meant to the early church, and what it could mean for us today. Then I saw another angel flying in midair, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. He said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water." A second angel followed and said, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries." A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives its mark on their forehead or on their hand, they too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. They will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. There will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name." This calls for patient endurance on the part of the people of God who keep his commands and remain faithful to Jesus. So the first angel proclaims an eternal gospel to every nation, tribe, language, and people. The second announces the fall of something called Babylon the Great. And the third warns of the judgment coming to those who align themselves with the beast. It's cosmic. It's intense. And for many of us, it might sound like some scary bad news, but John calls it an eternal gospel. In other words, gospel, literally means good news, not just for individuals, for the whole world, which raises kind of an interesting question. What part of drinking the wine of God's fury, torment with burning sulfur, smoke of their torment rising forever and ever, no rest day or night, what part of that could possibly be good news? Well, to understand how, we have to understand what sits behind the imagery of these angels. As I've said throughout this entire series, nothing in Revelation is purely original. All the symbolism and imagery is repurposed and recycled from the author and the original reader's own religious tradition. This imagery is saturated with words from the Hebrew prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah, both of whom wrote during a time in Israel's history when they had been decimated by and carried off as exiles to Babylon. Both prophets declared and predicted the fall of Babylon, saying that it would eventually fall because of its own violence, idolatry, and oppression. And here's the key. For John and his ancestors, Babylon became a symbol of empire, domination, and dehumanization. In John's day, Babylon was probably Rome. And in our day, Babylon still shows up in systems that crush the poor, in economies that are built on exploitation, in leaders who use fear to stay in power. So when the second angel in John's vision announces, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great," he's not just repeating ancient political commentary. He's hearkening back to an ancient promise from the prophets that God does see corruption, God does see your suffering, and God will deal with it. That horrific imagery of the eternal punishment wasn't read as a personal warning for the original readers on how they can avoid hell when they die. To the original readers, those small community of Jesus followers who were often persecuted and powerless, this was a word of comfort. Babylon will fall. Evil will not win. God will deal swiftly and harshly with empires and systems of dehumanization. For the people who were suffering under the thumb of those kinds of systems, this was good news. And that kind of brings us back to the first angel, right? Who proclaims an eternal gospel. I want to pause here. Because when we hear the word gospel, many of us think about how Christians usually talk about being saved or salvation. Typically, it's summarized as, say a prayer, believe in Jesus, and go to heaven when you die. But that's really a flattened gospel. And while it contains a small piece of the truth, it leaves out the heart of the biblical story. In Scripture, the gospel is not just about your afterlife. It's about God's justice breaking into this world. It's about Jesus being crowned as king and God making all things new. It's Isaiah's vision of swords being beaten into plowshares and God returning to be with his people. It's Amos crying out, let justice roll down like the waters. It's Jesus saying, blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. In Revelation 14, this gospel isn't just about a person praying a prayer. It's for every tribe, language, and people, because the healing of the world is coming. The true Christian gospel is cosmic, it's political, and it's personal. That's what the third angel is announcing. Those who align themselves with the beast, who give their loyalty to empires and systems of domination and evil, they will face judgment. And yeah, that's sobering. But again, this is good news if you're the one being crushed by the beast. It means God's not neutral. He's not going to let that injustice go unanswered. And right at the end of this section, we get this quiet but powerful reminder that all of this calls for patient endurance on the part of God's people who remain faithful to Jesus. You see, this is what Revelation is really about. It's not escaping this world, but staying faithful in it. Not predicting dates. It's about resisting empires. It's not about fearing judgment. It's about trusting that God will put this world back together again, because the gospel isn't just about getting into heaven. It's about how God will remerge heaven with earth. So if you're tired of a small gospel, if you've been told, hey, your job's just to stay quiet, pray the prayer, and then wait for heaven, if you've seen how injustice gets excused, or how Babylon still gets praised, how people suffer under systems that claim to speak for God, then hear the message of these three angels. The gospel is bigger than you imagined. Babylon will fall, and those aligned with the empire will pay. And for now, your faithfulness matters. God will make all things new. I wonder what that faithfulness looks like for you. What does it look like to resist Babylon in your life, to stay faithful to Jesus as you wait for God? And if you want some help getting some clarity and direction on what exactly that might mean in your life, let's chat. Throw a wave emoji in the comments. I'd be happy to sit down with you one-on-one over a video call or email, just to make some space to make sense of your spiritual journey, even in the midst of Babylon. And if you want to stay up to date on everything we got going on around here at redeemeronline.church, you can join the email list by tapping one of those links in the description below. And if you want to support this work that we're doing, there's a link to donate down there as well. And lastly, every Monday morning, we have a weekly live stream where we pause to pray and read scripture and reflect together. And you can find that here on the channel Monday mornings at 9:05. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.